In today's episode, I'll be an. Nope. 3, 2, 1. In today's episode, I'll be exploring an abandoned section of old US 40, about 40 miles west of Salt Lake City. This section once carried both US 40 and US 50, but was left as a 6-mile long dead-end road when Interstate 80 was built here in the 1960s. The last 4 miles of the road haven't been touched since this section was abandoned 60 years ago, and they still bear the pavement and markings from that era. So come along with me as I check out this old road, abandoned US 40 in Utah's Tooele County. This is a map of Heber City, prepared by the U.S. Geological Survey in 1955. The road that you see headed north out of town is labeled as US 40 and US 189. As I scroll northward toward the top of the map, you can see a settlement named Jordanelle, and then a mile further a junction labeled Hailstone where the two routes split apart. Now let's take a look at the same map, updated 44 years later. We still see the settlement Jordanelle, but beyond that is a dam with water behind it. No sign of Hailstone. This is the modern view, recorded in the fall of 2024, here in the settlement of Jordanelle. The road is still there, but it comes to an abrupt end. The Jordanelle Dam towers 300 feet above the old road. In the mid-1980s, I regularly drove this road, transporting bottled water between our plant in the Orem and Provo area and southwestern Wyoming. I remember when this was a bustling 2-lane highway crowded with roaring truck traffic. Today, it's a quiet dead-end road used mostly for recreation access to the campground and anglers' access points along the Provo River. Unlike some other sections of old US 40 that I've checked out, this one is not completely abandoned. Today the road is maintained by Wasatch County, so there are no opportunities to find decades-old pavement and markings. There are still, however, interesting vestiges along this section. First are these bridge abutments right next to the current bridge. Now, I did my best to look for clues, but I don't have any definitive answers, unfortunately. I believe that the current bridge was the bridge that was in use on US 40 before the dam was built. I think that these abutments are traces from an earlier bridge that had been replaced by the one next to it. Maybe there was a highway widening, or perhaps the older bridge had some structural issues. I just don't know. What I can say for sure, though, is that this was never a divided roadway with 4 lanes, so these two bridges were never in use at the same time. Moving on, I'd like to show this picture taken before the dam was built. This is the approach to Hailstone Junction, the location where US 40 and US 189 split. You can see the sign for the upcoming junction in the photo, and also milepost number 11 is viewed. Now the dam was built at milepost 12, which means it's now impossible to recreate the location in the photo because it's currently under 300 feet of water. But the nearby scenery and the character of the road appear to be very similar of the road that remains below the dam. Incidentally, Hailstone was one of 2 towns and junctions that were submerged under the lake. The other was called Keatley, and I'll be covering that in a future video, along with old US 40's emergence at the other side of the lake. Finally, I found this trail milepost still intact. It's interesting first, just as a testament to the road's lineage. This was once a major highway, and this point was 14 miles from its beginning at the Silver Creek Junction. In my experience, it's pretty unusual for UDOT to leave things behind like this when a road is decommissioned. The other thing to call out, though, however, is the structure of the milepost. This milepost harkens back to Utah's old method of installing mileposts, using individual digit components instead of a single unit. I suppose that the old method was more flexible, since presumably workers could carry around a big box of digits and build any milepost that was needed. But what I never liked was that there was never a bottom piece to complete the sign. You can see an outside border on the top and along both edges, but the bottom was left open. The sign just seemed incomplete. And also, it left doubt as to whether another digit had been there previously and perhaps had fallen off. And yes, that did happen. UDOT finally adopted the single unit milepost in the early years after the turn of this century and replaced all of the mileposts statewide. So this stray is now an anachronism. I hope you enjoyed this content, and if you did, I'd ask that you'd click the like button to let YouTube know that you liked it, and that way they'll share the video with other people. If you enjoy the content on my channel, I'd ask that you'd consider subscribing or even clicking the notification bell so that you'll get access to my future videos and YouTube can tell you when I have a new video. But as for now, thanks for watching.